and welcome to Good Game Well Played for Friday the 6th of May. My name is Hingers, and last week on the show, I opened with a joke about how we were the ABC's only show about esports and therefore by definition the best. And then apparently someone said in the comments that that meant by definition we were also the ABC's worst show about esports. So that's what I've been thinking about late at night for the last week. So thanks for that. Today on the show, we'll be chatting to NichBoy about the esports side of his latest addiction. That is the Hearthstone expansion, Whispers of the Old Gods. But first, let us look at that news. And we start with StarCraft news, as we have a new GSL champion for 2016. Season 1 of the 2016 Global StarCraft League wrapped up this week, with former GSL champion Zest taking on KT roster teammate TY in the best-of-7 final. The pair traded maps, but it was the Protoss player Zest who eventually took Game 6 and the final 4-2 on Leralac Crest. This is Zest's first big tournament win since March last year when he won the IEM World Championship. And in local news, Australia has a new esports team, sort of. Nuovo Gaming, while not based in Australia, will focus on developing the Oceanic esports scene and has already signed up a bunch of Australians, including StarCraft pro Iagas and Hearthstone player Tomfleur. Soon after they announced the new team, the organisation also signed the ex-Infernum Gaming CSGO squad, currently ranked 8th in Oceania. Welcome, Nuovo! Hey, also, if anyone from Nuovo wants to come on the show and talk to me, this is an open invitation, huh? Alright. And finally, in Hearthstone news, Korean network OGN has hosted the first pro Hearthstone tournament since the release of Whispers of the Old Gods. 8 Hearthstone pros from around the world were invited to compete for the $20,000 US prize pool. Cloud9's Strife Crow, out of the US, faced off against Japan's Matten, who went ahead 2-0 early on before Strife Crow fought back, and the American took first place, winning $10,000 US. And speaking of the digital collectible card game based in the World of Warcraft universe, where is NichBoy? I have some questions to ask him about the Year of the Kraken, which is what they're calling this year with the Whispers of the Old Gods expansion. We're now joined by Good Game's resident Hearthstone addict, NichBoy.
Hello, thank you very much.
And we're going to be chatting about the ever-changing meta of Hearthstone, given that Whispers of the Old Gods has just dropped, and all the pros are complaining about how RNG is happening now, and there's no more skill involved in the game, it's just a poke machine.
But this is also just the complaint that everyone has every time a new expansion for the game comes out.
Oh, it's for kids now, I don't want to play it anymore.
Exactly, yeah. And while obviously there are a lot of cards in Old Gods that are built around RNG, but also there is a heavy element of RNG in every aspect of Hearthstone. From card draw to opening card packs, the whole game is built around, hopefully I get the thing that I want. But I do think while there's cards like Yogg-Saron, which is, I mean, this is the one that a lot of people are talking about where you go, for every spell you've cast in the game, when you've played this character, it casts a random spell.
Do you just imagine Yogg-Saron just at a club, just
making it rain with spells, fan of knives, and draw 2. And this is a card that I thought I would hate, but I actually love because it's so much fun to play. And generally the spells go in your favor. I think most of the time it's a positive for me, not a negative, because a lot of the spells are good. And even though there's a huge amount of randomness, I think that people are discounting the skill it takes to set up that card.
Yeah, it takes quite a lot, because these old gods that you're playing, they require so much mana to cast that you need to be preparing for this for 5 or 6 turns beforehand.
Yeah,
you know?
these are like 10 mana cards, so you drop them down at the end of sort of at least 60% of the game.
I actually played a game against another Yogg-Saron deck where we were both playing spells that were just fizzling a lot because there wasn't enough targets for the spells.
Yeah.
And so we were just trying to get out as many spells as we could so that our Yogg would just destroy. But yeah,
I've had games where you start and on turn 2, my hand is entirely spells.
Yeah, and you're like, I have no targets for these spells.
I go, there's nothing I could do here, but this is great because like when I finally get to turn 10.
On turn 10, I'm going to destroy.
I've had cards where I've had Yogg-Saron in there and I've just been casting, draw as many cards as your opponent has to fill your hand, and I've been casting it when they've got 1 card and I've got 6 because I'm just going, need to use spells before turn 10. Maybe that is a problem. Maybe there is a little too much RNG in Hearthstone right now.
Coming into this expansion, a lot of pros thought that Rogue was a dead class now, that no one was ever going to play it anymore. But it seems like it's surging through the ranks right now.
Absolutely. I think that they were worried about the fact fact that a lot of the weapons, there was one ability which you would pretty much buff your weapon, and then you would break your weapon, and that would apply the damage.
Blade Flurry.
Blade Flurry. So that would apply the damage to all the minions and the hero and the enemy hero. They nerfed that so that it doesn't apply to the enemy hero. So what that means...
Also doubled the mana cost of it.
And exactly. And so what that means is it takes away the sort of win condition of, okay, I get them down low enough that then I can buff my weapon and do that. So people were like, Rogue is dead. But then what happened is the Miracle Rogue started becoming a thing again, which is where you're drawing a lot of cards using a lot of combos and starting to put together, do that big end game Yogg-Sothoth setup or whatever.
A lot of internet lists have also been listing Zulok as like the new Warlock deck.
Yeah.
That all the pros are going to go heavy on. But then when we saw the Seoul Invitational, Strifecrow was playing a Reno lock deck, which was kind of not what people had expected. It's kind of deck he'd been playing around with before, and you just kind of like churn through cards to get to Reno.
Yeah, because you can spam your hero power, which is dealing 2 damage to you to draw another card, because once you get Reno, you can go back up to full health. And I think that's a really interesting, viable deck. A deck that I have been running and had a lot of success with, which is like that, has actually been Divine Aggro Paladin. So it's the same idea where you're using lots of little...
many words before Paladin.
I know. And it's the same idea where you use lots of low-cost minions, but you're trying to give them as many of them as you can Divine Shield, which means that when they get hit, then they don't actually take the damage, and
they
it just
don't
breaks
die,
the shield.
Just kind of hang around.
And so it saves you against board clear. It means you can take down big guys without also wiping your whole board. I've had a lot of success with that one.
Is the idea of like a persistent but annoying invincible creature, do you feel like some sort of emotional connection to that?
Yeah. It's just I wander around and I'm small, but I annoy everybody.
And you're like, I'm not going away.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. But I think the biggest thing is that it's been changing up so much, and I've been experimenting with so many different types of decks. I've been stealing decks from pro players and making my own ones, and every time I play against a weird one, I'm trying to remember everything they did so that I go, oh, I want to try that one as well.
We've also seen like a return to some old favorites, because Grim Patron was obviously nerfed a while back now, and it kind of died off for a bit, but now there's a resurgence, especially with Warrior. Everyone's loving that. Yeah.
Well, loving / hating. I feel like it's still annoying when you come up against it, but also great when I'm running it. I've got a new Warrior deck, which is a Grim Yogg deck. So Grim, every time he takes damage and survives, he spawns another version of himself. So you play him, then you play a bunch of low-cost spells that are dealing 1 damage to him, spawns a bunch more, and then at turn 10, if you haven't killed them with all of the Grim Patrons, you can throw down Yogg-Sothoth, it casts a bunch of random spells, you cross your fingers and hope that they survive.
A lot of streamers have also been running Cthulhu in Druid decks since Whisper of the Old Gods dropped, which means that Druid will maintain its position as the most annoying thing to play against.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been... I mean, Druid seemed like the most obvious class for a Cthulhu deck, and has been really strong. You can get to Cthulhu faster than the other person, which is half the game is going, all right, like we're both racing towards turn 10 if we have this deck. It's been interesting. I feel like it will have its day, and those decks will get refined, but maybe people will sort of stop playing Cthulhu decks so much because it's not as new. But I was surprised, actually. I thought that Cthulhu may not have a presence in the pro scene before it came out, and it's actually like, no, this is a really, really, really viable deck, because all the Cthulhu cards, that you don't need that many in your deck to buff him up, but each one, generally they're pretty solid vanilla stats at the beginning, so you still got a really solid deck that's building towards
and you only need to buff it a couple of times to really make, like, the difference between doing like 6 or 8 or 10 damage is like a couple of mana, and then just...
Absolutely, and he's got some crazy synergy cards as well. The biggest one, which every Cthulhu deck is running, Twin Emperor Vekla. So that is where if your Cthulhu has 10 health or more, then you summon this 4/6 taunt, and then he summons a twin version of himself. So you get 2 6 health taunts on the board, which slows everything down, and it means that people then need to run tech cards dealing with taunt cards, so people are having silence or Black Knight or something in their decks. There's really a lot to think about.
Yeah, I feel like what we're going to see in the next couple of months is a much more paper scissors rock style of play in the pro scene, where you're going to get decks out that are just going to be better against certain decks, and the game's going to be won and lost in the weeks leading up to tournaments, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's pretty obvious, I hope, that I've been really enjoying myself, because there's been this combination of like new awesome stuff and experimentation and real revitalizing. And I think that's only a good thing, because Hearthstone definitely got to a point where
It was
Still
stale,
an amazing
right?
game, but it was stale.
Yeah.
It was just like everyone was running the same decks and there was not a huge amount of experimentation.
It's the year of the Kraken.
It is the year of the Kraken, as they keep reminding me. And then it's the year of the Kraken in brackets. Each year we'll have a new thing. It's like, it lessens the war cry if you need to put in brackets afterwards.
Well, Nick Boy, I can see the glazed look in your eyes and the gauntness in your cheeks means that you need to be let go so you can get back to your tablet to play more Hearthstone.
Goodbye!
Thanks for joining us. All right, we haven't done this in a while, but there is a local esports thing happening in Melbourne. The fighting game community organisation Couch Warriors is putting on their annual Battle Arena Melbourne, which for the first time is a Capcom Pro Tour ranking event for Street Fighter V. BAM 8 kicks off next week and runs all weekend at CQ in Melbourne. You can check out their Facebook page, Couch Warriors, for details. If you're running a local esports event you'd like us to cover, why not get in touch? And you can also let us know what you think of the changing meta in Hearthstone post Whispers of the Old Gods. But for now, Hingers out. See ya!